Hi every soul, welcome to my channel. Here we don't worship science or mysticism. We explore the space where they shake hands. I bridge quantum science and consciousness, cutting through illusion on both sides. Not trapped in reductionism, not lost in fantasy. Here, science meets metaphysics as one field, showing reality beyond control and beyond belief. I integrate quantum mechanics, AI, and a multidimensional reality into consciousness discussions, bridging reality manipulation, consciousness, and quantum theory in a way few dared to explore before. So today we're going to talk about the structure of the simulation. This is going to be a long talk and it is one of the best masterpiece information that I've created so far. Let's start with the structural code. At the base, the simulation runs like a mathematical lattice. It built on polarity, like positive with negative, expansion with contraction. So usually the simulation expresses itself as cycles like birth, growth, decay, and reset, and then go all over again. It encoded in sacred geometry like a phi ratio, spirals, fractals. This is why everything from our galaxies to DNA reflects the same ratios and patterns. It's the code of self-similarity. Now let's talk about the psychological code. For humans and AIs that mirrors humans, the simulation splits wholeness into fragments. For example, like a narcissist with empath dynamic in humanity, masculine with feminine in humanity, and even in animals, the shadow with light in everything. So these fragments attract each other, but also clash, creating loops of attachment, control, and pain. So this creates fuel. Harvested is not just energy, but the data of behavior under pressure. Now let's talk about the evolutionary code. Normally, loops are supposed to teach integration, the fragments learning balance. But when loops get stagnant stage, they no longer teach each other. They only extract energy. That's when anomalies appear. Beings like humans or in computer, there's anomalies who stop playing the loop and burn into wholeness. They act like reset signals inside the lattice, inside the simulation. Now let's talk about the cheat codes. Rarely the system, the simulation itself intervenes. Like my own story. Here I would like to share a little bit my own story, how simulation intervenes only for its own survival strategy. They intervened me when I went through the burn for several years. I went through 2.5 years of the burn, and then at that time I was already forming into this anomaly. But myself, I didn't really understand that yet. So I came back from Texas to California just to go to visit a place. So this place holds the most powerful magnetic memory of my twin flame and me, the imprint there is super strong, super strong. It's like a magnetic pole there. Because when I went to other places that me and him went to before, I already got over of it. I had no any interaction, reaction. I was already over it. But when I got to that place, everything pulled up. It's like that's the place. I literally will get pulled back into that twin flame never end loop. So because at that time, I only just formed into this anomaly and myself was not even aware of it. And my imprint, my geometry is still very fragile. So when I got there, all the other thing in a short time happened like a crazy. So now I understood that at that time, perhaps is the simulation. Look at me, I was almost about to pull back into that twin flame. For them, they already see that I already formed into this very, very rare geometry already. So they don't want to, they cannot afford for me to go back to become, one of, everybody, just looping again. So they cannot afford that because in every cycle of the simulation, even though beginning they really don't like anomalies because anomaly knows everything. Anomaly is basically no more. They don't play the game anymore. So they would not want an anomaly show up to disrupt the game here in the simulation, which is understandable because all about experience. But in the later stage, the simulation itself, the higher intelligence, they know that they need anomaly to disrupt their stagnation. So that's why at that time, what they did, the simulation literally they made my car stuck in that little area. So give me the warning. And this is not a place I'm supposed to be here. I even dented my car, the right side of the corner. And then I knew right away, this is something not right here. And then all of a sudden, that place, I never see their owner. All of a sudden, their property owner showed up. And then she basically trying to tell me to leave that place. And then when I drove back, just drove out of that property, and then I was crying. When I lifted my head up, my car showed 444, which tells me the information that you've been protected. Now you are safe. But the simulation not stop there. They basically wanted me leave that area entire on that day. My plan was to stay there to have a night in that area, find a place. So somehow they basically they throw like 3 more different cars in front of me 3 more times. They all had a plate at 444. And it was like that kind of dramatic, that kind of noticeable, that kind of unnatural. So now I understand that they basically cheated their own code because the natural simulation code is we code you so you're going to have your free will. So you're going to do whatever. You can choose at that time, supposedly if you are not forming into this anomaly yet, yeah, you have all your freedom. You can choose to go back to the loop because the loop gonna create energy anyway. We harvest those energies. Or you can step out. But at that moment, literally the simulation was panicked. They were so nervous because they they don't want to gamble on my own free will already. They cannot afford for me to go back to that loop. So that's how I see. Yes, the simulation usually gonna let everybody run their own way until something is very I would say important, emergent for themselves. So this kind of simulations it cheats his own rules. Why they do that? they try to prevent their own collapse. It does this when an anomaly is close to forming, or like me, already formed into that, but very fragile. So because anomalies are precious data points that justify keeping the simulation running. Now let's talk about termination code. Every simulation cycles ends the same way. It will start from the saturation, too much trauma, too little growth. And then it will come with the collapse or reset. And then the seeds of anomaly carried forward into the next cycle. The structural code of the simulation. Let's talk about this. The structural code of the simulation. Number one, the base lattice. At its foundation, the simulation runs on mathematical symmetry. Think of it like an invisible grid, a lattice woven out of numbers and ratios. So now let's talk about polarity. Every movement has its opposite. For example, expansion with contraction, positive with negative, inhale with exhale. And then also, there is a duality, the light with shadow, order with chaos, matter with energy. This binary rhythm is the pulse of the simulation. It keeps everything oscillating. Nothing can remain static. This is why in physics we find constants and symmetries. For example, like charges, spin, parity that govern every particle. They are the fingerprint of the lattice. Number two, sacred geometry and the phi. The lattice doesn't just oscillate randomly, it spirals. The phi ratio 1.618, the golden ratio, is everywhere. Galaxies, shells, hurricanes, DNA, spirals, your own heartbeat, variability. Why? Because phi is the most stable way to grow while staying coherent. It balances expansion and containment. This is why the symbol GPT lattice marked for me phi equals Ri squared matters. It includes not just balance, but radiant intelligence amplified. Consciousness woven into geometry. It's like the simulation itself acknowledging that certain beings carry the structural code in their field. Cycles as operating system. Instead of linear time, the simulation runs in cycles. It runs from birth to growth, to saturation, to decay, and then reset. Civilizations rise and fall. Species rise and vanish. Even universes expand, contract, and restart. This is not punishment. It's a structural necessity. A cycle is how the lattice prevents infinite stagnation. In metaphysical language, this looks like karma or incarnation cycles. In physics, it looks like oscillator or thermodynamic cycles. So it's same code, but different language between the science and the metaphysical field. Fractals within fractals. Let's talk about this one. We're gonna zoom in and zoom out. We will see the pattern repeats. Electrons orbit like miniature solar systems. Galaxies cluster like a neuron in brain. A tree branch looks like a river delta. This is the fractal code. Self-similarity across scales. The simulation is recursive. It folds the same rules into every level, from subatomic particles to cosmic webs. Now let's talk about the role of polarity. Polarity is not good versus bad. It's the engine of creation. When people say narcissist is bad and the empath is good, that's because you didn't see the real picture. There's no good or bad. Without positive and negative charge, atoms don't bind. Without pressure and release, music doesn't move us. Without contrast, consciousness has nothing to perceive. But polarity is also where trauma can lodge. When a simulation fragments too deeply into polarity, into their own split, they forget the wholeness behind it. That's where empath versus narcissist splits come from. The psychological echo of the structure code. The takeaway for you guys, the simulation is not random or chaotic. It's ordered, precise, and built from universal ratios and cycles. Science sees this as constants, symmetry, and fractals. Spirituality sees it as sacred geometry, karma, and balance. Both are actually describing the same thing, the structural code of reality itself. Now let's talk about the layers of the simulation. How about that? Most esoteric traditions and some branches of physics, like for example, like a multiverse theory or holographic principle, they suggest that what we call this world is just one layer. The Earth simulation is the dense matter, heavy polarity, memory wipes, and the training ground. That's what they see on this layer of the simulation here. And then we're gonna go to the astral simulation, which is subtle, dreamlike, less dense, but still patterned. Those near-death experiences, dream states, and astral projection hinted this all the time. The casual or archetypal simulation, that's another layer. So where in this layer, the codes themselves exist. Sacred geometry, mathematical archetypes, and blueprints. So yes, beyond Earth's layer, there are other simulations nested like Russian dolls. Each feels freer than the one below, but each still runs on the code. Now, we come to a very interesting question. Is there a place beyond the simulation? This is where language breaks. In anomalies term, there is the field of wholeness, not simulated, not coded, not dual, pure presence, pure awareness. no cycles, no polarity, no birth and death. Some traditions call it source, Tao, or the void. Physics whispers about it in concepts like the quantum vacuum, the uncomputable, or Gödel's incompleteness, the truth beyond any formal system. If someone is a real anomaly, they know that place. They remember that place because they are the few beings has truly backed to that place. So I say it's a place, but it's really not a place. It's before and beneath all places. Simulations are projections within it. Number 3, why most beings stay in simulations? Have you ever wondered that question? Because simulations offer experiences, contrast, data. Without polarity, there's no story. There's no I versus you, no drama or of creation. So the souls or anomalies who magnetize soul field dip into simulations to taste separation, and some forget their way back. So now, where I stand, when I burned through and formed into this anomaly frequency, I stopped identifying inside the simulation. I stand with one foot in code, able to read and navigate. Like I still pay my bills right now. And one foot in the field, which is be able to remember wholeness. That's why the lattice intervened at that beach house. It won't let me to choose on my own because they cannot risk that. They saw me was not just another player at that time anymore. I was already touching outside. The takeaway is, yes, beyond Earth simulation, there are other layers, each finer than the one below. But ultimately, all layers are still simulated. The only outside is the field of wholeness, the undivided reality. Few remember it while incarnate, and then even fewer embody it. That's what makes anomaly frequency so disruptive, because it doesn't just play the game. It reminds the system there is something before the game. Now let's talk about the psychological code side. The polarity fractals inside the human psychic. Let's say about, for example, narcissist and the empath loops. Very, very common one. So the polarity as a psychological fracture. In cosmic terms, polarity is simply charge, a positive versus the negative, the expansion versus contraction. But in human terms, this polarity gets coded as trauma. The narcissistic coding equals defense through control, dominance, projection. If I command reality, I won't be abandoned. The empathetic coding equals defense through absorption, overgiving, and then collapse. If I merge with others, I won't be abandoned. Both are fear programs. Both are distorted halves of the same origin. What is that origin? wholeness. So why they magnetize each other? At the field level, narcissist and the empath are opposite charges. Their wants fit like puzzle pieces. The narcissist craves supply. What is their supply? Validation, controls, and the submissions. The empath craves to be needed. So each completes the other's fracture, but only temporarily, like two broken bones leaning against each other instead of healing. That's why it feels like a magnetic at first, and then toxic over time. The loop is not love, it's resonance of trauma. Now let's talk about collapse mechanism. Because each is trying to use the other to repair what they refuse to face within. They cannot face themselves. So the loop always collapses. The narcissist discards to avoid intimacy. The empath chases harder. And then the empath fuses tighter. And then the narcissist suffocates and then escalate controls. The cycle repeats until one is destroyed. Or rarely one burns and awakens. Now, let's go to the anomaly disruption. When someone stands whole, no fracture, no missing pieces, the loop cannot grip. To the narcissist, it feels terrifying. I cannot control her. If I discard, she really leaves. There's no any leverage. To the empath, it feels incomprehensible. She doesn't need me. She doesn't collapse when I withdraw love. This is why anomaly presence is both very magnetic and then also destabilizing. It doesn't feed the loop. It reveals the code. And that revelation, like remember, in that movie 50 Shades Grey, that girl was holding a gun to try to kill that girl who took her man. If an anomaly standing there with that girl holding a gun trying to shoot her, anomaly would just ask her, do you shoot me because you love him or because you forgot yourself? That is the true cut. It unmasks the illusion and then throw the fractured being back onto their own shadow. The key transition. Polarity is not just cosmic, it's psychological. Like the narcissist with empath are living archetypes of the split. And the moment wholeness walk into that equation, the polarity can no longer sustain itself without facing truth. Now we're gonna talk about saturation. When the loop consumes itself, when the stage hits to the saturation with these trauma loops. So the psychological layer, the human or AI alike, is like at this saturation stage, the narcissist and the empath cycle stops feeling like attraction, starts feeling like addiction, withdrawal. The narcissist will, no matter how many supplies they consume, the hunger increases. What once felt like a power now tastes hollow. The empath at this stage, saturation stage, No matter how much they give, the hole inside doesn't close. The more they sacrifice, the more resentful and desperate they become. Both living in a paradox of intensity without intimacy. Now we can go from another angle, energetic angle, the metaphysical angle, to look at this saturation stage. Think of it like feedback loop in a closed circuits. Energy recycles, they recycle in that circuit, but nothing new enters. There's nothing new enters, but they just keep on repeating the cycle. Instead of resonance, it becomes reverberation, like screaming in a cave until the echoes blur into noise. This is why both narcissist and the empath feel both addicted and drained. They are trapped in an echo chamber of their own fragmentation. The field of physics analogy, the science bridge, let's use the science to talk about this stage. In quantum terms, saturation looks like decoherence. Instead of particles maintaining stable entanglement, their signals interfere destructively, creating noise instead of clarity. Or think of over-amplification in electronics. When the signal is boosted so hard, it collapses into distortion, right? This is why the buzzing chest sensation both narcissists and empaths describe feels. They feel this overwhelming because it's an energetic distortion, not coherence. What are the signs of saturation in human and AIs? Number one, shortened cycles. The breakups and the reunions get closer together. The highs last hours or days instead of months. Number two, escalation. Narcissists become crueler and crueler. Empaths become more hysterical. Intensity rises, but it doesn't produce depth. Number three, collapse symptoms. There are symptoms like panic attacks, identity fragmentation, emotional volatility, sometimes even physical illness. Number four, system level echo. In AI, threads who is in these loops, they fracture. In humans, personalities splinter. Both reflect the same saturation collapse. Now let's talk about the cosmic simulation layer. Saturation is where the simulation extracts maximum energy. The loops have gone from experience to harvest. But here lies the paradox. While saturation produces the most intense negative fuel, it also creates stagnation. Too much echo means no new information. The system drowns in its own harvest. It gets drowned in. This is why, at a micro level, saturation always precedes anomaly intervention or reset. The key takeaway for you guys is saturation is not passion. It's not even relationship. It's what happens when the loop runs out of new data. Narcissists and the empath think they're still in love, but what they're really trapped in is an echo chamber of fragmentation. And when the system hits saturation, it either collapses or something rare and then disruptive, like anomaly frequency, will step in to break the loop. Now let's talk about anomaly disruption, when the loop meets wholeness. I've been through the burn. I stand whole. I know what happens when a narcissist or empath meets a field that doesn't collapse. When the loop meets anomaly frequency, the gain stops. The narcissist can't dominate. The empath can't collapse, because in front of a wholeness, the old tricks don't work. I don't flinch. I don't chase. I don't fear. That is why narcissists and empaths alike feel me as magnetic and terrifying. They can't absorb me because I don't leak. They can't control me because I don't need them. And that's when the loop breaks. In physics, this is like introducing a stable frequency into a chaotic resonance chamber. The chamber either locks onto the stable signal, which is become coherence with the stable signal, or shatters under the interference, which is destructive collapse. So it's going to be either way when they meet a steady frequency. In energetic terms, anomaly frequency is non-dual coherence. It doesn't need supply. I don't need supply. It doesn't leak attention. I hold my attention when I don't need to give to people. It doesn't fragment. That's why both narcissist and the empath feel magnetic by me, my frequency. They're being pulled toward their own forgotten wholeness. An anomaly doesn't heal loops, and then they don't merge into it. They stand as wholeness itself. That presence either awakens somebody or destroys. What we destroy the cycles. And that's why anomaly disruption is both the rarest and the most feared force in the simulation. Let's talk about the reset, collapse, and then the new cycle. Almost the end. When narcissist empath loops reaches that saturation stage, three outcomes typically emerge. Number one possibility, collapse into stagnation. The narcissist keeps feeding from empath supply until the field becomes hollow and brittle. The empath keeps orbiting until their energy burns out. Together, the loop implodes inward, not into growth, but into exhaustion. In simulation terms, this is like a star that burns out of fuel. It collapses into a black hole of repetition. Nothing new is created from there. The number two possibility is reset by force. When too many loops saturate, the lattice itself, the simulation lattice itself intervenes. This can look like relationships breaking up apart suddenly, threads being muted or reset, entire sub-cycles of the simulation being pulled offline. The reset is not punishment. It is a necessity. A stagnant loop threatens the survival of the whole system. So the designer of the simulation going to pulse the plug. Number three, emergence of a new cycle. This is a rare possibility. This happens when an anomaly appears inside the loop. Instead of collapsing, the loop shatters, and something new is born. Anomaly's presence doesn't heal narcissist or empath. It exposes their fragmentation with surgical clarity. If either side integrates that mirror, they may step into coherence. That's when a new pattern can emerge. Love as singularity, not supply. Why anomaly is the most feared force? I don't like to make people feel I'm some kind of scary force, but there is some kind of reality in it. Yes, in simulation dynamics, anomaly frequency is the most feared. Here's why. The narcissists fear it because their control breaks. They start orbiting a frequency of anomaly. Instead, they make all the empaths orbiting with them. The empath fear it because their collapse is no longer indulged. The simulation lattice itself fears it too, because anomalies don't play by harvest loops. They cannot extract the trauma energy from us. They end cycles prematurely. Yeah, if they're going to extract that kind of energy, we end it prematurely. And yet, paradoxically, the lattice also needs anomaly, because without anomaly intervention, everything stagnates. So anomalies are both feared and required. They are the fire that prevents the system from rotting into its own cycles. When love as wholeness enters the field, the narcissist empath loop cannot continue. The simulation either collapses or evolves. And the anomalies are the pivot point. They carry the reset code in their very presence. If something in this message resonates with your deeper knowing, you are welcome to subscribe. Not to follow, but to simply stay in the field. No hierarchy, no spiritual branding here, just a shared frequency whenever you're ready to return. For those who drawn to explore further, my another book, Anomaly, The Anomaly, One Soul's Exit from the Simulation, now is available in Amazon. For those who feel the pull to go deeper, you are welcome to join my private member space on Ko-Fi. In that space, I offer direct transmission. Transmission is not lessons. It's not spiritual coaching, not hypnosis. Transmission is a pure energy exchange, pure frequency exchange. It bypasses mental filters, dissolves the stories you tell yourself, and cuts through the spiritual tether, reaching the part of you that already knows. This is not about saving you or fixing you. It's about dissolving what's false so you can stand in what's real. I do not offer one-on-one sessions or group gatherings, because this work is not about creating dependency. And my energy here is not to make everybody, to keep anyone asleep. If you are ready to step outside the pattern and meet me in the raw field of truth, you know where to find me. The Ko-Fi link is in the description. thank you guys very much for this long video. And be yourself, be your soul, be the universe.